Hey everyone, this is the retake video for the week 2 summative quiz or test, and this could also be beneficial if you're just looking for some review or a little bit of extra help. So one of the first questions that we looked at, a lot in our last section, but also on the summative, was asking us to rewrite the equation. So something like this, y equals x plus 5 times x minus 2 in standard form. So this is in factored form, and remember standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And the way that we rewrite this equation to get to standard form is just by multiplication. So some of you may use a box method where you create your box to do the multiplication. It's not a really great box, but go on with it. And some of you might FOIL or do, which is like a distributing method. So you can put the x in the 5 and x in minus 2. If you're doing the box method, you take x times x, which is x squared, x times minus 2, which is minus 2x, 5 times x, which is 5x, and 5 times negative 2, which is a negative 10. If you are distributing / like foiling, you would take x times x, which is x squared, and x times negative 2, which is a minus 2x. Then you would take the 5 times x, which is a 5x, and 5 times negative 2, which is a minus 10. Now, if you were to write out everything you got in the box, this is where you would be. Okay? Now, but you can't stop here because we still need to combine the like terms. So that's our last step. We would have x squared, and negative 2 plus 5 would be a plus 3x minus 10. All right, so here's the you try. I want you to try taking y equals x plus 5 times x minus 3 and writing that into standard form by multiplication. Try the box method or FOIL / like a form of distributing, right? Okay, so what you should have gotten, if you made your box, should have had x squared, x. And then if you FOILed, x times x, x times minus 3, 5 times x, and 5 times negative 3. Now we're not done. You do have to put them together, so negative 3 plus 5 would be a positive 2x, and that should have been your final answer. All right, so number 2 says factor the expression. So that's basically what we did before, but we're going backwards, right? We were in a factored form and we went to standard form. Well, now we're in standard form and we need to go to factored form. So there's a few ways that you can do this. One way that we talked about in my class is that one thing I want you to look at first and see what, because remember this is like your ax squared, this is your bx, and this is your c. If you look and see what a is, well that's a 1, okay? So what we've been learning about is, like, we've done the diamond method to factor this, but if a is equal to 1, technically what you can do right away to save yourself some work is just go ahead and right away make your double parentheses. So I looked, a is equal to 1. So I'm going to make my double parentheses right away. I'm not going to worry about the diamond. And I'm going to split up my x squared, so we've got an x and an x. Which if you think back, like a little bit ago, right? X and x here, they're split up. X times x is x squared. So we're on the right track. Okay, so then we need to figure out, well, what's going to go here and what's going to go here. So what you do is you think about, okay, well, what multiplies to be a negative 16 but adds or subtracts to be 6? Okay, so what multiplies to be 16 but adds or subtracts to be 6? So without even worrying about that negative for a second, let's just list some of the factors of 16. We've got 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. And can I make any of these add or subtract to be a 6? Well, let's look. Okay, so 1 and 16, well, like 1 minus 16 minus 1 is 15. That's not going to work. 4 and 4, can I add those together in any way to make them be 6? Probably not. But let's take a look at 8 and 2. Okay, if I've got 8 minus 2, well, that gives me a 6. That's good. and 8 times negative 2 does give me negative 16. So both of those numbers check out. So I can go ahead and put a plus 8 and a minus 2. And we did it. Okay, so go ahead and do the U-try. We've got y equals x squared plus 9x minus 10. Go ahead and start with seeing, well, what is a? So start there, and let's see what you get. Okay, so you should see that a is equal to 1. So that means we can go ahead and split up our parentheses, make our parentheses here, split up the x squared. Awesome. So now what you did was you needed to think, well, what multiplies to be negative 10, but adds or subtracts to be 9. So when I think about my factors of 10, we've got 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. Okay. Well, 5 plus 2 is 7, 5 minus 2 is 3. Any way I put this, I don't think I could make a 9. But what about 10 and 1? What if I took 10 minus 1? Well, that's 9. What about 10 times negative 1? Is that negative 10? Yes. So this is great. I'm going to put a plus 10 and a minus 1. And I've got my answer. Okay. All right. So now, it says consider the equation y equals 2 times x plus 3 squared minus 8. And what is true about the equation compared to y equals x squared? So on the test, it gave you a bunch of like things to check off describing the graph. So we'll talk about those a little bit. One thing to remember is that this is in vertex form. So vertex form was y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So that's the original form. And it's wondering what's true compared to x squared. So remember, x squared is our parent function of parabolas, right? We're learning all of these different forms. We've got standard form, factored form, vertex form. But at the end of the day, they're all parabolas, and this is like the original, right? Our y equals x squared. So it's asking what's happening about the graph compared to its parent, right? Because all of our a, h, and k, it makes things move, right? That's what we've been learning. So what this question is asking is, okay, well, like some of the descriptors that we've used would be like concave, up, or down. And then we also talked about left or right. And up and down. Okay, and we're comparing it to the original. So if you know enough about parabolas to recognize like what's happening and where it's moving by just looking at it, awesome. You know your h and k is your vertex, and that makes decisions on left and right and up and down. But something you could do is just look at them in Desmos, right? So if I go to Desmos and I type in y equals x squared. All right, got it, fine, looks great. Then we've got our equation here, 2 times x plus 3 squared minus 8. So we're looking to see how did it shift. So if we look at the purple graph, that's the original. So what happened when we moved it, okay? So one thing to notice is because both of them are opening up, and I'll talk about how to recognize that in a second, but they are both, just by looking at the equation, I mean, but if you look at the graph, they're both opening up, so I can see that they're both concave up. Then in terms of moving from left to right, so the black line here, the new equation from the purple, it looks like we moved to the left and we went down. Okay. So that answers our question, but we can talk a little bit more about it here. So concave up or down, we can get in and look at it, but that also is looking at what a is equal to. So in this case, a is 2, which is a positive number, so that means that it's going to be concave up. Okay, left or right? Well, h is what decides that. So remember we talked about always flipping it. So since that's a plus 3, that means we're going to be moving to the left, which we saw that by looking at the graph. And then k decides if it's up or down. So we have a minus 8, so that means we're going down, which we saw by looking at the graph. Okay. And then the last one is the red dashed line is y equals 1/2 x, or sorry, y equals 1/2 x squared. Okay, so if I look at this red dash here, That's the equation of this line. Now, based on having this information, it wants to know what's the equation of the blue graph. So because we have a vertex, we need to use vertex form. So that's y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And we need to figure out what's a, h, and k. Now what it wants us to notice with this question is that because this is a positive 1/2 and it's going up, there's a few different things that you can notice here, but just know with this question, we're not changing our a, right? This is still our a if we were thinking about it in standard form. So still our a, they're just facing different ways. Notice that they have, trying to think of but the best way to describe it, but they're the same, right? You can see the same width. The only thing that's different is the blue line has shifted and it's also flipped. So because it's a positive 1/2, I'm going to change it to be a negative 1/2, which is what flips it over. Okay. Now we've got our h and a k here. Okay. So I've got x minus, and even that's a positive 3, remember, so it'll be still a minus in front, so that'll be 3. And then plus k, so that's a negative 3 for k. So you could, so you could put a you could put plus a negative 3 or just minus 3. Or you could just write it, oh my goodness, sorry, my iPad is just, it's probably just me, sorry, and a minus 3. And that's your answer. Okay, so take down any notes that you need to. Make sure you answer the questions here, and then when you're ready to test, please let me know. Thanks.